What's up everyone, it's Benedict here, aka BHL Hudson. Welcome back to the BHL2 channel. Today I'm talking about a film, or series of films, that won't come out for a couple years, but we've started getting some promotional images, some behind the scenes stuff for it. I'm talking about the Beatles cinematic event coming April 2028. Now I have some thoughts on the actual films themselves, the casting and the director and that kind of stuff, but mostly I want to talk about the experimental release strategy that they're going for here, where, in case you don't know, they're not just doing a Beatles movie, they're doing 4 movies, one for each Beatle, and they will all release on the same day in 2028. Some people have thought that this might be, not the best idea. I may be one of those people, we'll see. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. Maybe it is a gambit that will pay off. Who's to say? Let's dive into it. First of all, I do want to talk about the actual films themselves, the cast, the crew, that kind of stuff. Just on the quality of the movies, I'm pretty excited for these. This sounds pretty promising. We have Sam Mendes directing, who did a few of the later Bond films. He did Skyfall and Spectre. Back in the day, he did American Beauty, of course. And I think his most recent film was 1917, which was, nominated for Best Picture. Great movie. He's a very good director, and he can handle, I feel like, an epic scale movie. Not that, the Beatles is like a war movie style thing or like an action movie like Bond, but I feel like the larger scale of those lends itself to like the epic pop culture scale of the Beatles. I feel like he's a decent choice. I'm a fan of that. And the casting, we have Harris Dickinson as John Lennon, Paul Mescal as Paul McCartney, Joseph Quinn as George Harrison, and Barry Keoghan as Ringo Starr. Pretty great casting, I would say, in my opinion. I should say up front, I'm a Beatles fan in the same way most people are Beatles fans. I guess maybe a little more so than the average person. But I like the Beatles a lot, but I don't know, intimately the life story of George Harrison or anything. But from this perspective, from this, casual Beatles fan perspective, I'm on board with this. A lot of them, these guys look like the people, specifically the pictures they have of Harris Dickinson and Paul Mescal as Lennon and McCartney. Pretty great. Joseph Quinn doesn't look a ton like George Harrison, but they're also 4 of, the most like talented plus big name young actors in Hollywood right now. So yeah, I'm on board with this. I also think some of the wives have been cast. I think Saoirse Ronan and Amy Lou Wood are playing 2 of the Beatles' wives. I'm not entirely sure if that's confirmed yet, but overall, this cast sounds, pretty promising. This seems like a fitting level of stardom and talent for, something as big as the Beatles in pop culture. The films themselves, I think, will be good. In terms of there being 4 of them and them all coming out on the same day, I have some more questions. Firstly, on the actual, we can talk about how this might affect the quality of the films, which is less guaranteed. I think there's more room for them to do this well. And my initial thought was, is there not going to be a lot of repeated stuff in these movies? Like, I know they're telling the individual stories, but then, presumably the Beatles come together, and there will be chapters of that, storied career that will be in all of the films, I'd assume. I think I've been a bit burned by, like, the movie House of Dynamite that came out last year, where it was telling this story from different perspectives, and it was meant to be really deep, but really it just felt like you were watching the same thing over and over again without anything that new being added to it. But when I thought about it, I think there is something to, even if you see the same events, telling them from the lens of a different character with the context of whatever we've seen from that story leading up to that point. And also, maybe there are events in the Beatles' career that focus more on an individual Beatle. So that would be in their film and then maybe not in another Beatles film. I don't know who said, like, the Jesus thing or something, but maybe that's in their movie and then not in the other movies, something like that. Yeah, I could see it working. Could they maybe be going over some of the same ground in the different films? Could it get a bit repetitive? Maybe. In terms of the music, like, how do you divide up which movie gets which Beatles songs? Again, not knowing a ton about the Beatles, but I'm pretty sure, like, Lennon and McCartney, I don't know. Do they not sing or play most of the top ones? Do they not make most of the top ones? Like, which songs are going to be in, like, the Ringo movie? Exactly. I don't know. Again, I don't know too much about the Beatles. But I think they can possibly... I have confidence they could work around that. In terms of the actual release, though, and in terms of if this will pay off, like, box office-wise, and will people go see this, I'm split, but I'm leaning towards this might not be a great idea. Because, on the one hand, you think about Barbenheimer. Obviously, that's the first thing you think of in terms of, like, a recent cinematic event that got people out to cinemas, seeing multiple movies. But the conditions of Barbenheimer were so specific. It was like, it started as an internet meme that kind of became big. It's those 2 movies, it's that dichotomy of, the Barbie movie and the Oppenheimer movie, the colorful pink movie, the black and white serious movie. The fact that they were both very well loved, they were very well received. it was summertime, you know, it was a thing you could dress up for. There was a lot of stuff leading into that. And plus it was 2 movies. I think that should be definitely said. This is 4 movies. I watch a lot of fucking movies. I not usually, but often go for double features where I'll see 2 movies in the same day. I have never seen 4 movies in a day. I don't think I've ever seen 3 movies in a day in the cinema. I think that's gonna be a tough sell. And also, I mean, I know you don't have to go all in the same day, but are people gonna come back to the cinema 4 days in a row? Are they gonna see 2 one day and see 2 the next? I feel like in today's like attention span, you know, lowered with people with lower attention spans. I feel like it's already hard to get people to see any movie in the cinema. You know, cinemas are, in some people's eyes, dying because you can't get people off the couch, off the phone to actually come out to the movies. To see 4 movies, it just feels like you're asking too much of today's audiences. Honestly, it feels kind of like you're asking too much of any time's audiences. Like, I think this would be a hard sell in any time period, even without phones. And I mean, that's the thing. The other angle is maybe it's an event thing. And I've thought about the future of cinema maybe is more event movies, like where it's not just like you're going to see a movie, you're going for like a thing at the cinema, a story to tell, etc. You know, I remember last year, these anime movies that came out, the Demon Slayer movie, the Chainsaw Man movie, those are some of the most packed cinema crowds I saw a movie with, and that's because like it was sort of an event. You watch the show at home, and then you go to the movies for the big thing. So maybe it's possible that it's like, okay, it's the Beatles day, like we all go to the cinema and spend the entire day in the cinema. But also, are people that into the Beatles? Like, I don't know. Obviously, the Beatles are massively iconic and popular. I love the Beatles. Most people I know like the Beatles music, but it's not, I don't know. I don't know if they have the pop culture capital to warrant having 4 different movies that people will all go see. I don't know. I just think it is asking a lot. And I want to be clear here. It's not just runtime, because possibly I was thinking like, oh, you know, what's his name? Sam Mendes. He makes really long movies. Probably, you know, I was thinking about Spectre and Skyfall and all this kind of stuff. But you know, 1917 was under 2 hours. They could make them short. They can make these 90-minute movies. For some reason, I feel like they're not going to. This feels like one where they're all fucking over 2 hours. But maybe they make them 90 minutes. But it's not just runtime. It's price. You know, I'm a big proponent of the cinema subscription thing where you pay a monthly thing and then you can see as many movies as you want. That leads to a lot of the double features I do. It's great. Honestly, if you go to the movies, I'm not paid by anyone, but if you go to the movies like more than twice a month, it's almost stupid not to have it, in my opinion. But most people do not have that. So you're asking people to pay for 4 movies. Again, you know, these are economically difficult times for a lot of people. To ask them to give, and cinema tickets are, you know, famously too expensive. Same with cinema snacks and whatever. I feel like that's going to be a big sticking point. Maybe there's some kind of deal they do. I could imagine that being like an idea that's being thrown around boardrooms right now. Of like, if you buy all 4 Beatles tickets, you get them for the price of 2 or something like that. But I don't know if that's not the case. I think that's going to be a big sticking point. I can't remember who said this, but I remember seeing someone said it was like, this will be the first bingeable cinema experience, first bingeable movie theater thing. And I disagree. I think you don't really understand binging where like, and people binge shows because it's available to them on their TV. They sit on their couch. Like, to ask people to drive to the cinema. Again, I fucking love going to the cinema, but like, to ask the average person to drive to the cinema, pay money to see 4 movies, that 2 of which maybe people are not that into. I'll be honest. We'll talk about this as well. Like, I want to see, I think, you know, Lennon probably has an interesting story. McCartney, maybe. The whole Beatles experience I'm interested in. But, like, me personally, I don't really care that much about George Harrison or Ringo Starr as a casual Beatles enjoyer. I don't know much about their stories, and watching whole movies about them, I don't know. So I think that also removes a little bit of the binge aspect to it. I mean, I have written here, yeah, my ass is not seeing the Ringo movie. Like, no offense to Ringo or George Harrison. I'm sure they're very interesting people. I'm sure they were very talented. But yeah, especially, also, I mean, what order do you do? Like, do you suck it up and see the Ringo movie first and then save, like, the McCartney and Lennon movies for last? Because, like, again, you're asking audiences to, like, possibly do something they don't want to. Like, you think modern cinema goers are going to be like, okay, fine, I'll go see the Ringo movie. I'll spend my money to see the Ringo movie first just so I can understand the lore in the fucking McCartney movie. Like, I don't know. It seems a little bit, I guess, tone deaf of like where audiences are at. And I I feel like it sounds like I'm taking the side of like, yeah, you should make like a TikTok version of the Beatles movie and put it on fucking Netflix. Like I like that it's a cinematic event that you're putting in cinemas. I'm just saying, like, just pragmatically, like just realistically, what's gonna happen. This is the case. Also, I think there's something to repeat viewing potential. Like, I feel like for movies, this kind of kills the potential people seeing these movies multiple times. Like, I guess maybe you make up for that with it being 4 movies. I don't know budgetarily how they've distributed this or whatever, but like most people would not see a movie more than once in the cinema, maybe twice. But if you've seen, 4 of the same movie, after I've seen, all 4 of them, I'm probably not going to go back and be like, well, okay, and I'm going to rewatch the Lennon one, like see what, like a Beatle movie for the 5th time in, that period of time. So I feel like, I don't know, again, maybe it's made up for by the fact that there's 4, but I feel like that kills repeat viewings a bit. On the other hand, maybe it extends the life where, like, okay, you go 1 week to see Lennon, then the next week to see McCartney. But also with how long movies are in the cinema these days, how long will they be there? I guess it's a cinematic event, so you'd assume longer, but I don't know. Point being, I feel like, I'm going in circles here a little bit. Point being, there are a lot of aspects of this that I'm like, I don't know if you've thought this through exactly with, like, where people are at. I kind of respect it. I kind of like the idea of, like, trying to get people into the cinema with some kind of, I don't know if I like that it's a gimmick, but like, there's something trying to get people into the cinema. But if anything, this might be like pushing people in the wrong direction, as in like, they might not do this. Maybe realistically, the middle of the road thing is that the Lennon movie and the McCartney movie will probably do pretty well. And then the George Harrison movie and the Ringo movie will do less well. And, that's how it'll pan out. And maybe it'll all be fine. But I don't know. I guess I'm intrigued by it. It does feel a little gimmicky. We'll see what happens. I guess I'm also interested to see like how they tell the stories, and that's the more interesting part, I suppose. But as far as what we know right now, this release strategy, interesting. What do you think of all this? What do you think of this plan? Do you think this will work? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, subscribe, check out my main channel, BHL Hudson, my podcast, The Poorly Planned Podcast, my Letterboxd, Real BHL Hudson, and my Instagram, BHL_Hudson. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.